What's up, everybody? Hello and welcome to episode number 276 of the VK Bros with Jason and Alex Von Cannell. Now, we have a jam-packed show for you this week. There is so much stuff happening, particularly in Australia, but also around the world, that you all need to be paying attention to, because some things are going to happen. They're going to happen very quickly, and when those things do happen, we're all going to be looking back going, oh shit, probably should have seen that coming. So we see it coming, so we are going to tell you all about it. But just before we start the show, and before you get into what you're going to say, I just want to give a shout out to the people on Instagram who responded to our call to arms to set up Rumble accounts and subscribe to the show. Picked up 3 new subscribers, and I'm pretty sure that all 3 of you came directly from that call to action. So, hey guys, we really appreciate that. Like those.
How many more do we need?
We need about 21 more to start getting an income from Rumble.
And that income might be 50 cents, but we'll take it.
Yeah, and look, it's one of those things where, like, it feels so gross and grifty to actually ask you guys to do stuff to help us make money. But at the end of the day, this does cost us a lot of money to run. We are well and truly in the hole compared to how much we get back from this. We do it because we enjoy it, and we also think that it's really important to do. And we like to be able to help people, and I feel like we have helped a lot of people over the last 5 years. So any of those small things, like literally just setting up a Rumble account and subscribing on YouTube or all the audio platforms, leaving comments, liking stuff. All of you who send stuff to our Instagram, like different reels or news stories that you've seen that you think we might be interested in, all of that stuff contributes. And it's a way that, I mean, a lot of the stories that we talk about on this show is literally because you guys have sent me something, and then I've gone down the rabbit hole researching, and I'm like, wow, we need to talk about that. So you guys are part of the show. We appreciate you, and I just want to say thanks for all of your support so far.
And we know that there's some people that are watching it that aren't subscribed, so if you could just push the subscribe button, that would really help out.
Yep. All the things that everyone else talks about all the time. Subscribing, liking the shows, leaving comments, sharing it with your friends, especially now that we're talking about subjects which were polarizing 4 or 5 years ago, but are not so polarizing anymore. And today's show, we're going to be talking about some stuff in particular, which is going to probably affect all of us here in Australia and a few people abroad too.
Let me just start real quick about an overseas story that's only just broken. We haven't spoken about this before, so I'm just going to drop it, but I think we can literally put it in the bin and throw it straight away, which is that the Democrats have released all these Epstein files,
right?
These Epstein emails. Have you followed this at all?
Yeah, briefly, yep.
So it's saying Donald Trump is attached to these Epstein emails.
Yeah.
Gone through the docs of what's been available. Yeah, there's contact, but there's, like, nothing to it.
Yeah. The long story short was Democrats released a few emails that essentially tried to implicate Donald Trump having involvement with Virginia Giuffre, who is the unfortunate lady who was allegedly assaulted by Prince Andrew and also allegedly died by suicide earlier this year in Australia, funnily enough. So Democrats selectively released some emails which sort of painted that Trump was actually involved with her, and then in retaliation to that, the Republicans have released a whole lot of unredacted emails to essentially show that, yeah, he was talked about in these emails, and yet she has repeatedly said that he has never done anything inappropriate with her. She actually worked for him at Mar-a-Lago, and I believe that Epstein poaching girls from Mar-a-Lago, as in staffers from Mar-a-Lago, was one of the reasons for their falling out in the first place.
Just for our, like, we've said from this show ages ago when they first were, like, breaking the story, we know that he's attached to that story.
Yeah.
I think we played it on the show. There's an old clip of Trump being interviewed by someone, and he says, yeah, I've been to that island, and yeah, he likes them young.
Yeah.
And, like, so everyone keeps banging, he's attached. I've had people, like friends of mine, say, you know, he's suppressing it because he's going to be shown to be attached to him. Like, we know he's attached, but I just don't think it's as significantly attached as what you want it to be.
Yeah.
Because, and think about this, if he was, and if they had a silver bullet that said this guy did terrible, terrible things, You don't think they would have used that
Yeah,
when
of
they
course.
tried to sue him 60 times?
But also,
before
when the
running
Democrats
in?
were in power under Joe Biden and Trump was running for re-election, they absolutely would have released those documents
Yeah,
then, right?
of course.
Yeah, so I know what this is. This is a smokescreen that has been thrown up by the Democrats because they want to take the focus off themselves over the government shutdown. So, for any of you who haven't been following that story closely, very long story short, it came time to vote on a bill to essentially keep funding the government. This is a normal part of political life in the United States. So they have to agree on a new funding bill for the next term of government. The Democrats were trying to negotiate a whole bunch of things like free healthcare for everyone and just things that just weren't going to happen. So then they invoked a thing called the filibuster. The filibuster means that you do not need only a majority in Congress to vote these bills through. You actually need 60 votes. The Republicans, I believe, only had, I think it's 52 or 53 of the required votes. So they needed, I think the number was 8. I think they needed 8 Democratic senators to vote alongside them to do the continuing resolution. Otherwise, they had to shut down the government. So the Republicans have put a deal on the table right at the beginning, and the two key things were they were going to negotiate on another particular matter, and I don't know, there was some other thing too, some minor thing. So that deal was put on the table 6 weeks ago. The government has been shut down for 6 weeks because the Democrats didn't give them the votes required to sign off the continuing resolution. So all of the public service workers who were not being paid for the last 6 weeks, when the Democrats were out there saying Trump shut down the government, it's the Democrats that were withholding the votes. Every single Republican was voting to reopen the government for the last 6 weeks. It was the Democrats withholding votes to keep the government shut down because, again, it is a political play.
Yeah,
and there were 3 big elections. So we spoke about Zoran Mamdani being elected in New York City, but there were 2 other key elections that happened in that same period of time. And it was something like 2 or 3 days after all 3 of those elections were won by the Democrats that all of a sudden 8 Democrats then go and vote to reopen the government. So it looked blatantly like a political play, political point scoring to assist in those elections. And then as soon as those elections were won, well, now we can go and give them the votes and open the government. The deal that the Democrats got was literally the exact same deal that the Republicans offered them 6 weeks ago. And now, hey presto, all of a sudden, Trump's tied to Epstein because the Democrats released some emails. It's just a smokescreen to try to cover up from them closing the government for 6 weeks. Like, that's all this is.
It's a non-issue.
It's a nothing burger. Like, I'm pretty sure that we all know the majority of the people who are involved on Epstein Island are people we would love to see in prison, but like Alex said before, if Trump was really as heavily involved as what the Dems are saying he is, you would have already known about it. They were in power for the last 4 years. They would have released it then.
Yep.
Let's move on. Should we start with the economy? Is that where you want to start, Alex?
Yeah,
I think that's the most important thing to talk about.
Yeah. I don't know if it's my algorithm, but I'm being fed lots of doom and gloom at the moment.
Okay.
And not just from my pure algorithm, but even some of my friends are sending me stuff, primarily anti-crypto ones, which I found strange. Not anti-crypto in the normal way, but like some conspiracy theories about Bitcoin being used by Trump to reset the economy and to sort of... I keep getting hit with it.
I've seen some stuff about Bitcoin being seized as well.
Yeah, and okay, I want to address that because that is going around, and I know one of these guys in particular, I know he worries about this stuff.
Yep.
He's got Bitcoin, he's worried about it. And what annoys me is that you're more than happy to get inflamed by these memes. You've done none of the technicals. You've done none of the reading. You can't stop Bitcoin.
Yeah.
The US government can't stop Bitcoin. Mossad can't stop Bitcoin. You cannot stop it. Can you stop the on and off ramps for it through banking systems? Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. But then all people do is start exchanging like cash on the street. Go find some peer-to-peer.
Yep.
Okay. So stop, and there's these influencers around there who are being disingenuous when they're saying, America just decides to outlaw Bitcoin. It's all over. no, that's dumb. We know China has done it multiple times. It doesn't work. If anything, it pushes the price up.
Yeah.
Because the use case, as soon as you ban it, the use case for it increases,
Correct.
not decreases.
Yep.
Okay? And even if this crazy conspiracy theory happens where Trump does use it to reset the economy, having it is that is the key.
Do you know where the genesis, I think, of some of this stuff comes from? So do you remember in the lead up to the presidential election where Trump was talking about making a strategic Bitcoin reserve?
Mm-hmm.
And so all the Bitcoiners were like, hell yeah, because that means that the Trump administration is going to get into office and then they're going to buy up a certain percentage of the Bitcoin to hold as part of the strategic crypto reserve for the US government. And I think it wasn't until after he came into office that what he actually said was the government had no intention on purchasing Bitcoin, but any Bitcoin that was seized as part of criminal charges, i.e. like the Silk Road guy, when the government seized his Bitcoin, it was those seized Bitcoins that were going to form part of the strategic reserve. So then this has made people extrapolate that out and start talking about, when was it in the US? Was it under Reagan? I can't remember. It was back just before the US went off the gold standard, and essentially they made it illegal for you to hold your own personal gold. So the government came to people and said, it's illegal for you to hold gold now, but we'll buy the gold back from you. They bought all the gold back, and then they went off the gold standard, so unpegged the US dollar from gold, and essentially rug pulled everyone on because they started debasing the US dollar. So the fear is that because of that story about essentially Trump saying we're going to use seized Bitcoin to create the strategic reserve, everyone's now going back, oh, Reagan stole everyone's gold, so they're going to steal your Bitcoin too.
Yeah.
But it's just been this giant over-exaggeration, which just doesn't exist.
The annoying thing is it's the rhetoric, right? So you've grabbed the headline,
yeah,
and now you're terrified. Dude, if you put it on cold storage, they can't take it.
That's right.
You've got it.
Yep.
You own it. Now,
yep.
if you've got it sitting on an exchange, then yeah, you might be, if it was to happen, which I don't think it will, but they technically they can. If it's sitting on an exchange, they could compel an exchange to take it. Don't have it on an exchange.
But that's also the reason why Bitcoin is so good compared to gold. Because gold, most people who buy gold, they don't store it at their own house. It is stored in essentially centralized areas, which can just be, like, the government can rock up one day and just take all the gold. Absolutely. Yep. That's just not the case with Bitcoin.
So, yeah, so there's been a little bit of negative sort of, Bitcoin's just gone under $100,000. This is Friday at 1:30 in the afternoon.
That's 100,000 US, just for everyone.
US. I always talk US.
Yeah.
There's no point.
But we primarily have an Australian audience, so it's still about 152
grand. It doesn't matter.
Grand.
When you are trading anything, you trade in US
It'll be US dollars, yeah.
US. But some of the influencers that I follow on YouTube, for example, some really, really smart guys, are all sort of ringing the bell about the impending bubble burst.
Yep. And
what's different about this one, we've spoken property at length, and we'll speak a little bit more property today, a little bit later on, but in 2007, it was primarily property plus some like exuberant consumer spending debt that was the problem. This time round, it's everything.
Correct.
So this time, stocks are overinflated, crypto's overinflated, house price overinflated, and really, again, what we've been arguing about for a long time, Australia in particular, is we don't have a strong foundation to get us out of this. Trump's trying to grow his way out of this problem. And what I mean by that is he's trying to generate all these jobs. He's trying to bring in these tax through tariffs, like getting overseas to bring money into America to pay for it. He wants people to be more productive in America.
Yep.
So that does go some way to help correct it. We're not doing that here.
No.
We've got no interest in doing that here. We are doing more of the bad stuff, okay? So
yeah, Trump's literally doing the opposite. He's trying to bring industry back to the United States so the United States becomes more productive. We are trying to bring labor into the country. through immigration.
Yeah. And they have no jobs here. There's no jobs for them to do.
Well, they're all doing NDIS stuff.
It's government-made fake jobs.
Yep.
Okay? They generate nothing. Okay? So, it is going to be very, very, very interesting going forward. I am expecting, I mean, we've been saying it for probably 2 or 3 years. We knew that this COVID stuff was eventually going to run out of steam.
Yeah.
Eventually someone was going to pay the piper. We've been saying it the entire time. But I'm finding my algorithms far more intense. Basically, all the economists are saying there's not one piece of data that says that this isn't going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's some... So, like, I think I mentioned on the show, it might have been last week or the week before, that I sold my shares about 2 weeks ago because I just don't like a lot of things that I'm seeing. And the first step in that domino was when the Reserve Bank held interest rates. And the reason why they held interest rates was because inflation had gone back outside their 3% band. Now, the thing that you need to keep in mind about and remember about the RBA has essentially 2 jobs. It's to keep inflation low and also to keep unemployment around a similar band as well. They want to keep unemployment low. Now, our economy is, we know we've spoken about on the show for like at least the last 4 years, our economy has been busting week in, week out for years. Like we've talked about how, you know, how is it possible that every single week another builder goes under during a housing crisis? Like when housing is the most overcooked commodity in the country, you're the one who builds the thing and you can't even make it work for you.
Yeah. That
shows you things are really wrong. Just this week, there were 2 large freight companies that went bankrupt. Menulog has just announced that they're, I don't think they're going into receivership, but I think they're leaving the country. So, like, there's all these giant businesses which are going bust, and this is before interest rates have even risen. So, when the Reserve Bank held rates, I think that was the catalyst for a lot of these companies who were maybe holding out hope that they were going to get some interest rate relief and some access to cheap funding just to keep the wheels turning, and they realize that that's not going to happen. So, do you want me to read this out?
Yeah.
Okay. So Alex has just... What was the question that you asked?
I just typed in interest rate rise.
Okay. Australians are facing rising interest rates on fixed home loans and term deposits, despite the Reserve Bank of Australia holding its cash rate steady at 3.6% since November 2025. This move by major banks, including Westpac and Commonwealth Bank, is driven by increased global funding costs rather than a shift in RBA policy, signalling that rate cuts are unlikely in the near term.
I just want to pause on that for a moment.
Yeah.
That's bullshit.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
So I can tell you...
The part in particular is they'll always use this global funding cost increase. It's the excuse they use every single time. It's bullshit.
Yeah.
Just so you know.
All the banks are doing is... And like, we were going to talk about this. So just for people who don't... Oh, here we go. Fixed rate mortgage increases. Westpac led the big 4 banks in raising fixed home loan rates by up to 0.35% for 1, 3 and 5 year terms, with the lowest 2-year fixed rate now at 5.24%. CanStar has identified 9 local lenders that have quietly increased fixed rates over the past 2 months, indicating a broader market trend. Now, when I brought this up...
You don't need to read the others.
Yeah, we won't. When I brought this up with Alex this week, because I caught the Westpac story... We actually can't remember the last time these big 4 banks increased interest rates independently of the RBA. I don't remember that happening. And again, you have to ask yourself, why would the banks do that? The normie off the street might go, oh, this is just price gouging, they're profiteering, they're trying to make more money, etc., etc. I think that... And because the key on the information is they raised the fixed rates. So what they are doing is they are just pricing in the fact that they know next year that rate rises from the RBA are coming. So they are not going to allow you to fix a rate now for something that's going to be 0.25 or 0.35% cheaper than what you'll have to fix for in 6 months. They've gone early because they know it's coming. And this does not bode well for our economy.
This is what, again, I know we keep banging on about it, but our last show actually got quite a bit of attention. We had multiple people reach out to us talking about some experiences they've had around property at the moment.
Yeah.
And every single one of these signals I felt in 07.
Yeah.
Keep talking about it, okay? Keep talking about it. The difference is the amount of debt we are talking about for a property is 3 times what it was when I was talking about.
Yeah.
And my wages from then and now, look, I was young, so I've doubled my income. But in today's money,
mm-hmm.
which is probably has the same buying power, so I might be in the same net position.
Yeah.
And yet the mortgage has trebled.
Yeah.
Okay. So it was very refreshing for me to have a conversation with a guy who's my age, in the car game, just sold his property, and for him to just say, "This is a stupidly inflated market. I'm just going to go rent until the dust settles," because he goes, "This is crazy, and I'm not signing up for a 30-year mortgage as a 40-year-old guy on $1.5 million.
Yeah.
Nah, you know." But there's still people who are being compelled to buy. A friend of the show, she told me this week her boss basically ridiculed her and said, "How come you haven't bought yet? You're going to miss out."
Yeah.
The same old rhetoric. And then this girl's smart enough to sort of push back on her and ask a couple of questions about, there's other things that you can do, like she's invested in other areas, and do you know what my percentage yield is on that? And this lady's response is, "Oh, yeah, I think we've got some stocks too, like my husband sorts that out." Like, she doesn't even know what...
Has no idea, yeah.
It's just this programming of the Matrix just saying,
yep.
Got to get a house, got to get a house.
But you're right, so when you said programming in the Matrix, this is what I find so insidious about the whole thing, because... So, think back over the last 5 years in particular about the conversations around crypto and Bitcoin. And probably even Bitcoin to the side, talk about altcoins. And everyone talks about the fact that the majority of people lose money on altcoins because the only people who make money are the ones who bought in early, get the astronomical price rise, and then quickly sell out to the new people who buy in too late, and those are the people who are left holding the bag. And everyone talked about that being a bad thing, right?
Yeah, good point.
That's what the boomers are doing now with property.
Mm.
And again, what I find so gross about this is all these economic markers that we're talking about, these are things that we discussed on the show for months. We've been seeing these things, month in, month out for absolute months. We're not geniuses. The government has, how much money does the government spend on consultants to talk about this sort of stuff?
Yeah.
They know what's going on better than we do.
Yeah.
So for the government to then come out and announce that 5% deposit scheme to help young people into the housing market, which they know is completely overcooked, is literally, they're literally rug pulling you on the housing market.
It's even worse than that. Because think about this from a logical standpoint. Inflation's a real issue.
Yep.
Okay? The only way that governments can curb inflation is, this is what they're saying. Jason and I watched a podcast this week, this really smart guy. It's too advanced for here, but it's based on flawed economic policy.
Yep.
But they keep doing it anyway. We're all subject to this.
Yep.
The only 2 levers they can pull: up rates
Yep.
for mortgage holders, or up taxes. Okay.
Yep.
We're not upping taxes.
Stop
There's
spending.
Yeah. But so they're going to go in. They're going to go in cahoots with you into a new property,
mm-hmm.
and then as soon as you get in, they're going to use you as the brake pads to slow the economy. So think about that. We want you in that system. Oh shit, inflation's too hard. Pull the brakes, jack the rates up,
yep.
which has already happened.
Yep.
It's just happened, right? So, I don't know about you, Jason, but I don't want to be responsible for the handbrakes of the Australian economy that's been run poorly.
Yeah,
I don't
absolutely.
want to be the fodder.
And
right?
this is where the whole, even the interest rate conversation in relation to inflation conversation annoys me, because the RBA says it all the time. If the government keeps spending in the manner that it's spending, inflation will continue to increase. There is only so much slowing of inflation that the RBA can do by jacking interest rates, because if you jack interest rates too high, you completely destroy productivity, because interest rates aren't just for mortgages. Interest rates are for business loans, for small and medium enterprise to supercharge or invest more or create more productivity, creating more jobs, etc., etc. So the RBA is trying to do this dance literally on its own, because the government has shown absolute zero interest in reining in its own spending.
They're doing the opposite.
They've ramped it up.
Spending their money on pumping up asset prices, which is, well, it's technically inflationary, but it doesn't count towards that 3.5% inflation because housing's not counted.
That's right. Housing and electricity prices, funnily enough.
Right.
But also, again, so I was having a conversation with a mate of mine about this during the week, and he's a bit older, and he was talking about how you can see these boom-bust cycles coming because they are cyclical. They are cycles. They happen over and over and over again. But the thing is, and like our generation jokes all the time that it's like, oh, this will be our fourth once in a lifetime financial event that we've lived through.
Event. Yeah.
Yeah, right. But here's the thing. I believe the reason why these cycles are happening faster and faster and faster and faster is just a symptom of the system. Because, as Alex was saying before about the difference between 2007 and now, anyone who was old enough to remember 2007 knows how bad that was. But all the conditions are 3 times worse today, right? So,
it's worse. Is it 3 times? I'm just trying to factor in. We
don't have to nut down on it, but the point is it's multiples worth, right? And one of the things which is driving the inflation, it's not just government spending, it is new money creation. And this is a thing that most normies do not understand, which we'll just keep throwing it out there until you guys get it. The way that money is created in Australia is when mortgages are settled, because most normies think that you put your savings in the bank and then the bank lends your savings out to other people, which is why they pay you a small amount of interest for it, and that's all the money that the bank has access to. That is not true. This is the way that it works. The bank gets your application for a mortgage, and when it approves the application and is getting towards settlement stage, the bank goes to the RBA and says, I need $1 million to settle this mortgage. The RBA creates the money.
It's actually created by the retail bank. It's not the RBA. It's the retail bank. The retail banks have the power to just generate money out of thin air.
I believe they generate it by getting it from the RBA.
Wrong.
Okay.
RBA sells bonds, treasury bonds,
right,
to generate money. The retail banks generate the money.
Okay.
They do not borrow from the RBA.
You could be right, and either way, it means money is created out of thin air. So these banks didn't have the money before, they create the money, they give it to you by settling the loan, and then they get paid interest off money that didn't exist before. So when we talk about inflation, what is inflation? Inflation is more dollars chasing the same amount of goods. So every mortgage that gets settled today is not only more money creation, but the rate at which we create money is increasing exponentially, because it's this negative feedback spiral where we create more money, asset prices go up, housing prices go up, mortgages required are higher, which creates more money creation, and it is a race to infinity.
It's a self-fulfilling prophecy in the wrong direction. You can create money and put it into the system if it's used for productive means.
Correct.
So let's say if every dollar of housing mortgage instead was put into a small business loan, we would have more jobs, more things to consume, more wages, and then that actually lowers inflation.
More taxation
that brings
paid.
Prices down, taxation goes up. Yep. And asset prices asset prices will start to go up, but they'll go up gradually in line with what people.
It'll be relative to the economy. Yeah.
But I want to show this. Okay, so I was listening to, and I can't pronounce his surname. It's Serhant. Ryan Serhant.
We'll go with it.
Big time, good looking Manhattan real estate agent.
Mm-hmm.
He had the show called $1 Million Listing.
Yep.
I think it was 15 years old. But and he was on the Iced Coffee Hour podcast, which is a finance podcast. And the question was, what is the best investment you've ever done? Okay, this guy buys, sells, and he has a company that works in real estate. He's a broker. He's all those things around real estate, okay?
Yep.
In the number one real estate spot in the entire world, New York City, okay? Mm-hmm. Look at what his answer... I was surprised by this answer.
And then I had a friend who is a big crypto trader who I always thought was crazy. And he convinced me to go heavy into Bitcoin when it was at 3,000. And then again when it was at 16,000. And those will probably forever be my greatest investments of all time. And those will just be held on a cold wallet, and I'll bury them in a treasure chest, and Morgan Freeman will find them.
What are those crypto people saying now? Do they ever give you tips and say like, hey, now's a good time to sell?
No, not yet. I don't spend a whole lot of time on it now, but nothing recently that like jumps out to me now.
So the guy that's probably the number one real estate agent on planet Earth. He's got a company with like 2,500 staff. He's just releasing his second series of $1 Million Listing. I think it's anyway. Big shot in the hottest commodity allegedly known to man.
Mm-hmm.
His best investment was Bitcoin.
Yeah. And
like, how many more like pieces of evidence do you need?
Yeah, and okay, so this is an interesting discussion point when you're looking at the economy, because so like I mentioned on the show last week that I sold my shares 2 weeks ago, and my share portfolio that I was in has already dropped by $2 per share, which is roughly 2%. In that 2-week period. So what is interesting is that, like, when you look at the markets this morning, everything is going backwards except certain commodities like oil, gold, etc. And those commodities are seen as safe harbor, where people can, if they're selling a speculative asset, they will park them in those things to sort of weather the storm. And like Bitcoin has often been seen as digital gold, so they're safe harbor. But Bitcoin is also going backwards at the moment. So you might be wondering why Bitcoin would not be going higher in a time like this. And I believe that a big part of it is, again, people are just trying to future-proof themselves by taking profits that they've made on Bitcoin to sort of have some capital there to hold them over the next 6 to 12 months when things might get a bit freaky.
I don't think it's that. This is what I think it is. I think it is pure fear. I think I had this graph up before. This is the Fear and Greed Index. We've pulled this up a bunch of times.
Yep.
It's at 15, extreme fear.
Yeah, interesting.
So that's why I have friends that are in Bitcoin that are sending me, whoa, oh shit, like, do I get out?
Mm-hmm.
This is where you lock the fuck in.
Yeah.
I had a little bit of spare cash. I was driving the car, saw the number, that's low. Buy.
Yep.
Buy. Right? I just want... I don't know how to say... I don't want to be like I don't want this to sound like catastrophic. But you got to make the right moves now. Like, this is where making some moves is really, 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 really going to count. And I know we keep saying it, and look, Matt, we're just too early. We could have had a gay old time for the last 2 years and said everything's good, and then we could have started our, hey shit, get ready for it to shit the bed. We could have done that now.
Yep.
We were too early.
Yeah.
Okay. We were surprised at how long this charade could go for. But you know, when you've got 3 and 5% mortgages on offer, the government's going to pay you dipper. LMI is not a thing anymore. New lending criteria. Inflation's still up. Productivity's still down. Like, Private debt up, public debt up, productivity down. Like what?
Yeah, how many more markers do you need? And so look, we believe in helping people, right? So we've spoken about all the reasons why we believe that this thing is going to happen. What are your key tips that you want to give to people? And again, this is not financial advice, but what are the things that you are going to do or you would suggest to people to do to prepare and prepare imminently to at least have a better go of things over the next 12 to 24 months?
Okay, so I have had some thoughts about this, and I've actually changed my answer. I think you need to be mentally prepared first.
Yeah,
okay?
Great point.
So I get criticised by some of my peers for being quite cold around some of these subjects. Actually, a lot of subjects. And the only reason is because I try to lean into my logical brain when I'm trying to make decisions about my life. So I absolutely have emotions. I have emotions I have as many emotions as you have. The difference between me and a lot of people is that I don't tend to act on those emotions. I try to convert those emotions into raw data, get an actual outlook for what the world is in black and white, and then I'll make a decision based on that. So step one is don't get caught in the fear. When you feel fear, you actually need to convert that feeling to opportunity.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay? So I'm happy when I see that red candle, right? When I see a Bitcoin red candle, I'm happy because it means I'm actually improving my position. Although my net worth goes down, my total number of Bitcoin goes up, and I know that in the long run, that is the play, right? Now, that's just Bitcoin related. The other thing I wouldn't be doing is going into big amounts of debt. Now, whether that be a house, whether that be fancy new car, whether it be like, I was talking to someone this week who's spending $400,000 on a wedding.
Wow.
Okay. Just calm your jets. And look, maybe this is just I'm at a different stage of my life where I think a little bit different now. And I've been speaking to some people that have had very emotional roller coaster like rides around things that they have in life,
right,
and not life itself. So objects in their lives,
things
that they're having these emotional attachment to. And I'm sort of realizing as I'm getting older is that if you're attaching your happiness to a thing outside of yourself, you're going to have a bad time. Like you're kind of setting yourself up for failure, right? Because that thing's not always going to be there. Also, that thing is not you, right? So the most cost-effective way to weather a huge financial storm is to want nothing and feel like work on your insides, work on your soul.
So a couple of points I want to say on that, and also your advice. Number one, I saw something the other day from Jimmy Carr, the comedian. I posted it on our Instagram, and he was in a podcast interview, and they asked him, what is the meaning of life? And he said he can sum it up in like 5 words, and it is enjoying the passage of time. Like, things are going to happen in your life throughout your entire life. You're not going to have all good times. You are going to have bad times. The meaning of life is to find a way to enjoy your time in the present every single day while you're here. It's one of the things that when people think about certain professions like the military or paramedics or firefighters, and like a lot of those workers experience some of the craziest, most horrendous things, and they've got that really dark humor, and they joke to each other about things like death and all those things that they see, and people don't understand how they can do that. Look, for a lot of them, it's like literally a coping mechanism, like that's how they deal with trauma. But at the same time, those jobs need to be done. So if you're going to do the job, you may as well find a way to enjoy it while you do it. And I've always been a massive believer in this. I'm not a big materialistic guy. For some reason, just never have been. But like, I can find a way to have fun, whether I'm going through really, really good times, where like just kicking goals, everything's doing well, or really, really shit times too, because I've had shit times in my life as well.
I actually had this this only happened to me recently with a friend of mine. He wanted to go out for a drink, so we went out, and we went to all these crazy bars, and I was like, why didn't we just go to one quiet bar? Because we're just talking with each other.
Yeah.
And like sometimes, I've got a keg in my shed, and I've had people over, and we just shoot the shit.
Yep.
And he literally said to me, he's like, I've never done that before.
Yeah, right.
Like in his mind, the only way to have a good, in quotes, a good time, is to be out seeing, to be out looking at people, to be out this.
It's all externally focused.
Correct. Yeah. Whereas for him, I wanted to spend time with my mate.
Yeah.
And I wanted to talk about life,
Yeah.
And I would have had as much fun, and we would have spent a quarter of the money.
Yep.
If we just went someplace quiet and had a chat. And I do that with other friends, But there are people like that. Just ask yourself, are you that person? Are you someone that is trying to find the answers external to yourself?
Yeah, are you doing things because you want to do them, or are you doing things because society tells you that you should be doing them? Like buying houses, for example. Like, that's probably a really good thing. But getting back to the financial side of things. So here's the things that I'm doing to prepare myself for the next 12 months. I've always been a believer in keeping your monthly nut as small as you possibly can. So your monthly nut means your expenditure every month just to survive. So that could be rent, mortgage, Netflix subscriptions, phone plans, energy bills, etc. Do anything that you can to keep those as low as possible. I have just received an email this week from my energy provider that they're taking me off the plan I negotiated last year, and they're putting me on a way shittier plan. I am currently being the world's biggest cunt in negotiating with them, until then I'll probably end up getting the best deal out of them and then taking it to another provider and using that to negotiate a better deal out of them and switching anyway. Because why wouldn't I? Power is the same regardless of where it comes from. I will not fall victim to the peer pressure of not wanting to have an uncomfortable conversation with a nameless person behind a desk and let that cost me heaps of money. So that's step one. Look at your expenses now and try to keep your nut as small as you possibly can. And that's like what Alex said. Now's probably not the time to go and buy the dream car. Now's probably not the time to... You might be looking at buying a house. Well, maybe, do you really need the fifth bedroom? Should you be looking at a size which is maybe a little bit more reasonable, which will give you a more reasonable sized mortgage and those sorts
Rory
of things.
Sutherland, he is so funny because he's quoted something I've been saying for years, which is if we bought cars like we buy properties, everyone would be driving a Rolls Royce. Because if you think about it, houses is the only thing in the world. You go to your bank, you go to your lender, and you say, what is the absolute max that I can buy?
Yep.
What's the max number,
exactly.
right?
Yep.
Whereas a car, you go, I'm allocating $100 a week for a car, or $150, that's my limit. We go, what is that? Tippy. What is the max that you'll give me? Not what I can handle. What do you think I can handle? I've done a budget, but my budget's irrelevant to what you think, Mr. Bank. You tell me.
Yeah, totally.
Let's move on, because we've got so much.
Well, I want to talk about this a little bit more. My next thing would be, you need to give yourself some savings runway. So, like, I'm an investor. I invest in stocks. I've got property. I've got Bitcoin. So certain things like my Bitcoin, like, there's an opportunity. If you bought a year ago and then Bitcoin got up to, what was the max US it got to? Was it like 120?
128.
Yeah, so let's say that you got up to 128 and you sold it. There was an opportunity for you there to take your profits at your 128, and now you could buy back in at sub 100 and you're miles in front. And maybe you could have taken those opportunities. Me personally, I'm not interested in doing such high risk trading on my Bitcoin. I just want to stack sats so I dollar cost average with Bitcoin. Every week I buy the same amount regardless of what the price is. If I see big dips in the price, I just buy a larger amount that particular week. But like on the share side of things, because the price is less volatile, I see that as an easier opportunity for me to sell high, buy low, because they seem to be a little bit more predictable for me,
at least. It's like a band that it plays with.
Yeah, exactly. Than the crypto markets. But here's the number one thing. If you do like investing and you are invested in some various things, you need to make sure that you've got enough financial runway in your savings account. So if the shit does hit the fan, you're not forced to sell your investments at a steep loss just to cover your monthly nut. So maybe you normally deploy 80% of your capital into investments. Maybe it might be reasonable to maybe pull that back to 60% or even 50% and just hold out. And like Alex and I are saying, the bubble's going to pop. It's just a question of when. And when is always the really difficult thing to try to figure out. But it will pop. So if you maybe cash some profits and just stack some cash for now, it is extremely realistic to believe that you'll be able to buy in at a lower price anyway within the coming months.
Yeah, and just if you're in the right mindset, you'll be looking for that to happen, and you won't be surprised when it does. But 95% of the population is going to be, what happened here?
Yeah, exactly. And it always reminds me of, like, your coldness towards, like, the Bitcoin price, for example, just reminds me of that meme with James Franco when he's about to get hung. And he looks over and he goes, first time? For people who've been trading or, like, particularly Bitcoin, but, you know, even share portfolios, we've seen the swings and the highs and the lows, and the media beats everything up, and you usually know that you should sell when the media is telling you to buy because they're trying to get the normies to hold the bag for the institutions, and you usually know it's time to buy when the media says to sell because that's when they're trying to get their discount and buy back in again.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Anyway, let's move on. Where do you want to go next?
You've got one here. Do you just want to do this one quickly? The UK court ruled about COVID statistics.
Actually, hold on to that one for a sec. I do want to talk about something which we don't have a resource for, which was the LNP has dumped net zero.
Yes.
So this to me is really interesting, and maybe we can segue this into the Jacinta Allen adult time for violent crime laws, which also got announced this week, because I believe these two policy changes will end up doing the exact same thing, but it's not what these people think that they're going to do. Sure. So this week, the LNP, because of pressure from the Nationals, well, that's what they say anyway, have decided to dump their net zero policy, and yet still somehow stay signed on to the Paris Climate Accords. So I don't really understand how that works. Now, everything that these politicians are doing, just so you're aware, it has got nothing to do with correct governance. It has got everything to do with opinion polls and their personal political careers. That's what this all comes down to. So it is not a coincidence. We covered on the show last week that in the recent polls, which were people's first preference intention for the next federal election, that One Nation was surging at 15%. The LNP was down at 24%. So we were talking about if One Nation can pull 5% more of the conservative voter base away from the LNP, they could literally they could flip it and become the second party in the two-party preferred system without preferential voting. So one of the things that One Nation's been consistent on forever, they've never wavered on this, is getting rid of net zero. So the LNP is clearly flipped because they're concerned about One Nation. But here's the thing. I believe this is tantamount to political suicide because, number one, any moderate, potentially left-leaning person who was considering the LNP because they're not satisfied with the Albanese government is now not going to vote for the LNP because they probably believed in net zero. The right-wingers who wanted to get rid of net zero are going to say, why the fuck should we vote for the LNP when One Nation has been consistent on this the entire time, and the LNP has supported the passages of laws and bills which pushed us into the renewables transition, which has already cost us tens of billions of dollars as a country.
Yeah, and their best and we covered this, their best, in quotes, defense for the renewables thing was a shitty nuclear plant.
Yeah, and also, literally, like the Labor government is spruiking it now, saying that one of the main reasons why we need to keep committed to net zero is because other countries won't agree with what we're doing. Like, we govern for ourselves, not for what other countries think about us.
Well, hold on, Big Daddy Trump, he's not doing it.
Yeah, but again, Big Daddy Trump is actually putting his own people first The Australian government is trying to cozy up to the EU, who is all about putting their people last and putting the globalists first. That's why we're cozied up with them. So let's park that to the side, because the exact same story but flip the sides just happened with Victoria this week. So let's go through this article. Victoria will introduce adult jail sentences for children, but experts warn it won't fix youth crime. At first blush, there's little common ground between David Crisafulli, the law and order liberal who stormed to power in Queensland, and a Victorian Premier from the Labor Party's socialist left. But with the youth crime crisis battering her government on an almost daily basis, Jacinta Allen has looked north for inspiration, even as she insists her home state is safe. On Wednesday, the Victorian government announced that children who commit violent crimes would face adult jail time, including possible life sentences. That's a difference between Victoria and Queensland, by the way. Under sweeping new reforms designed to curb a spike in youth crime. The new York laws, which Allen government is calling adult time for violent crime...
She should have called it My Neighbours Told Me To.
Yeah. Just like Queensland, but more gay, is what she should have called it. Are expected to be introduced to Parliament before the end of the year, and the rhetoric bears a remarkable resemblance to Mr Crisafulli's laws, which his Liberal National Party dubbed adult crime for adult time. Last month, almost a year to the day since he seized power in Queensland, Mr Crisafulli and his adult crime, adult time laws had worked, pointing to statistics which showed that 2,986 young people had been charged with more than 14,000 offences. His government initially claimed there had been a 10.8% drop in victim numbers between January and September this year. A week later, the Queensland Police Minister was forced to apologise for overstating that figure. It was actually a 6.5% drop, but it's still a drop regardless. How the Crisafulli don't worry about that. They literally just trying to say Crisafulli bad because they're right-wing.
Because this is ABC, by the way.
Yeah, this is ABC News. Essentially, long story short, Crisafulli was given the wrong data by the police commissioner. The police commissioner corrected the record. Literally the day that Crisafulli found out about it, he went on the mainstream news to put his hand up and say it was wrong and put the right numbers out there. So if you can go back to the article, that would be good. A reduction of youth crimes in such figures would be a gift to any political leader facing re-election, like Jacinta Allen will be next November. So this is the key, guys. Opinion polls are changing, therefore policy is changing. It's not because it's the right thing to do. It's not because, like, she didn't care that this was happening.
It's a political move.
It's a political move,
yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
But some experts familiar with the Queensland policy have told the ABC the picture painted by Victoria's northern neighbours is far from accurate and that Victoria's hopes for a Sunshine State turnaround are at best ill-founded. Catherine Hayes, the chief executive of the Youth Advocacy Centre in South Brisbane, said adult crime, adult time laws have not worked and urged Victorian Premier to reconsider. And she looks exactly like you would think she would look.
Yeah.
Please don't make the same mistake that up here in Queensland has made by introducing laws that have no basis in evidence or fact, Miss Hayes said. I bet she doesn't have children, to see where. Queensland locks up more kids than anywhere else in Australia, more than New South Wales and Victoria combined, yet we've got one of the highest reoffending rates. When they come out, they continue to commit crimes, and in the case of North Queensland, they're committing worse crimes. Her views have been echoed by David Heilpern, a former New South Wales magistrate and now the Dean of Law at Southern Cross University. He urged Victoria not to follow Queensland's example. In quotes, if they're relying on the Queensland experience, and if they believe in the Crisafulli message, then yes, they're relying on flawed statistics. There is a belief in the community that if you increase incarceration rates of young people, you will decrease the amount of youth crime in society. That is just an unproven statement, and the role of government in those circumstances is to be educating people and point that out, rather than simply falling prey to the inaccurate statements of other states and territories. Anyway, we don't have to keep going through more and more. There's just more and more of the same. So here's some of the things that I'm going to say about this. Every single statistic that you try to use as a basis for any of these programs is flawed. Because when you don't arrest and lock up youths for crimes, they don't get recorded as statistics. But when you do, they do. So the people who are locking the kids up, it looks like there are more crimes being committed on paper because they're actually recorded, whereas they're not down in Victoria. So all of this is just how to lie with statistics 101. Secondly, as a parent, and any parents listening to the show, just ask yourself, if I let my kids do whatever the fuck they want, all day, every day, is it more likely they are going to do a bad thing? I would say yes. We all know kids need discipline. They need boundaries. And unfortunately, part of our society over the last 20 years has sort of demonized parents putting those boundaries on their own children. We had the rise of gentle parenting. You know, we've had laws that if you smack your kids, it's assault and you can actually get charged for it. And so all of the ability for society to regulate itself in the way that it used to was removed, and now we've got this uptick in youth crime. But here's the most important thing that particularly most of the lefties don't acknowledge as a reality. Criminals are criminals because they don't follow the law. Criminals understand the legal system more than normies do.
Yeah,
because
they've got a
normies aren't...
vested interest in it.
That's right. Normies aren't focused on it. You just follow the law and move on with your life. Criminals are looking for loopholes. So criminal gangs who are adults have been recruiting children to break into houses, steal cars, do all of these different things because they know they're not going to go to jail. They are deliberately recruiting kids. So like the argument from that advocate in that story was that if you lock these kids up in jail, you're literally exposing these kids to career criminals. They're going to become more hardened criminals when they come out. The reality is, by not putting them in jail, you're already having them be exploited by career criminals who are recruiting them because the system allows them to.
Yeah.
So anyway, getting back to my point from before, I believe this policy change for Jacinta Allen again is going to have the absolute opposite effect of what she thinks it's going to do. So the people who should support that policy are the right-leaning Victorians who rightfully want law and order to be restored in the state. But she's not going to win any of their votes because they already hate her. They're never going to vote for her.
Yeah.
Right? All she's going to do is the far lefties that she has cultivated for years down there, and she has gaslit the entire time, saying that, you know, being hard on kids and arresting them for stabbing people is not good thing for society. She's just going to alienate those voters. So those voters are probably going to go to the Greens or maybe an independent, and maybe they might even preference the Libs above Labor because they think that her policy is so abhorrent because they've been...
I don't think they'll go that far.
Well, maybe not.
Yeah.
But again, as far as a vote-grabbing exercise, I don't think this is going to work.
No, I agree with you. It's like you can't literally turn on your base.
Yeah.
Like she's been saying that's safe, it's safe. Oh shit, wait a minute, polling's bad. Yeah, no, it's definitely unsafe. So this is why we're going to do the thing that I said we'd never do the whole time.
And look, the LNP is the perfect example of it. The reason why their opinion polls are dog shit is because they've turned on the right-wing conservative base in Australia. Yeah. They don't represent right-wing conservative values at all, and now they finally realise because, oh shit, now polls are starting to tell us that we're not going too well. Oh, maybe let's start pandering to our base again. But I think it's too late, and the big positive for me out of like COVID is I think so many people have woken up to the Liberal-Labor duopoly, and they want something different now. They've realised they're two wings of the same bird. They don't care who takes office, as long as it's one of the two of them, so they can keep jamming through the same predatory policies, which get all their rich lobbyist mates rich, and they all know that on the other side of their political careers, there's a golden ticket job waiting for them in the industries that they were advocating for.
Just go look at One Nation, their record. Now, have they got all the votes right? No, they haven't got all the votes right. They haven't played every single vote to 100%, but on the core issues, they have been consistent. They've been right. I was talking to some old people that were very, very anti-Pauline in the 90s when she came out, and even they said, well, she was right. Okay, so you've got to reward that consistency. I think the next election is going to be interesting. Let's move on.
All right, what's next?
Sky News talking about the BBC.
Yes. So part of what you guys come to the show for is for media deconstruction. And this is one of the things which is so important because as much as people who live in the online space like us think that the legacy media is dying and that new media is taking over, it's still not true. there are still far too many people who watch things and they take things in they see on the news, and it paints their worldview in a way they don't even understand. And the BBC recently this week has been caught up in quite the scandal, which all goes back to January 6 and the apparent insurrection attempt by Donald Trump. So long story short, the BBC has been caught out for selectively editing the video of the speech that Trump was making prior to the Capitol riots, and essentially used what they call a cutaway. I don't know if this story might actually have it in it. Yeah, should we go through the story? So almost identical. Sky News host Chris Kenny exposes ABC committing the same journalistic sin as the BBC in doctoring footage of President Donald Trump. Just scroll down. The ABC has been caught committing the same journalistic sin the BBC made, blah blah blah. Flagship BBC news program Panorama was recently caught doctoring a speech made by President Trump on January 6, 2021 in their documentary Trump: A Second Chance. In the Panorama clip, President Trump is quoted as saying, "We're going to walk down to the Capitol and I'll be there with you, and we fight like hell." However, the UK's Telegraph reported that this wasn't said by President Trump at all, as the documentary spliced together two fragments of the speech delivered 54 minutes apart.
Now, just so, like, we knew this early doors. Like, as it was happening, we'd watched the full version of it, and then we were seeing these cut ones up, and to say that, like, there's no way that they would let someone just do that. That was the whole basis of trying to impeach him.
Yeah, I was going to make that point. You guys need to remember what the entire point of calling January 6 an insurrection was. If you are charged with inciting or taking part in an insurrection in the United States of America, the Constitution says you can never run for public office. The entire narrative around January 6 was designed to remove Trump as a threat in the presidential race in America. And why do they want to remove him? Because the Democrats are pro-globalist. They were involved in all of the globalist bullshit, and the gravy train was going to stop under Trump.
So, something that... now, Trump is suing the BBC for $1 billion. Okay? Bernie Sanders is going around selling his book on why communism's great, socialism's great, selling a book for profit, doing the podcast scene.
The negatives of capitalism, whilst he is making millions from selling a book.
Something he keeps saying, and was really pissing me off, because I think only one guy pushed back on him. Can't even remember who it was. Might have been Chris Williams. So he goes, and Trump's out there suing any of his political opponents, and you can't use the legal system to attack your enemies. You did it to him.
Yeah.
You all did it to him. You did it. You still quote it now that he's been done for all these things.
Yeah, 34 felonies. 34 felonies.
You have everyone calling him a rapist. You have everyone calling him a felon. You have that because you did exactly what you're saying he's doing now.
Yep.
Like,
but here's the difference. Here's the difference, though. When they did it to Trump, we all find out after the fact that it's all bullshit. When Trump is suing them in return, he keeps winning. Because he's right.
Yeah. I mean, this was egregious. Like, and everyone's seen the clip. And you'd be lying, unless you've been watching our show the whole time, you'd be lying if you said you hadn't seen the we're going to fight like hell.
Yeah, it was everywhere. It was absolutely
everywhere. Actually, Michael Malice made an interesting point too, because he said they've been doing this to Trump ever since 2016.
Yep.
So there was a old clip of him and Princess Diana.
Right.
And apparently he walks in front of her, and that's like a real faux pas, like just like when he staunched King Charles by touching him. You're not supposed to touch him. And they showed it on repeat. Like, look at this idiot. He's just a rich guy.
He's a buffoon.
Only when he was running for office. They didn't care before, because before they used to show the full thing, where Diana motions you first, and then he's like, no, you first, and she's like, no, I insist, and then he walks through. And another one, this was a pretty recent one, when he went to Japan, and everyone seemed to throwing food to the koi fish, and the whole thing was like, you don't feed the koi, you fucking idiot.
Yep.
Well, no, if you see the extended clip, the president of Japan is feeding the koi fish before Trump does it.
Yep.
But it's amazing what you can do. You can just cut that one little sliver, put it out there, and everyone believes it.
And you completely change people's worldview. And it's the same.
Yeah.
The most famous one with Trump was the good people on both sides hoax, when they were talking about the rallies that had white supremacists show up, and like literally Trump was talking about it and saying, look, there is good peoples on both sides, except anyone who's got Nazis, they should absolutely be denounced. Their views are abhorrent. But they just cut that bit out of it.
Yeah.
Right? Like, again, this is why the media works and is evil, because they're all colluding to do this stuff. So you've got to remember, the BBC is state-funded media in the UK. What do they have to do with the United States? What did they have to gain by getting rid of Donald Trump out of office? Because that's what this was all in aid of. All of this selectively edited propaganda, anti-Trump propaganda, why would they do that? And why would our ABC do that? We did the same thing over here. Like, that's what that Sky News article was about. And there might be a video in there. Maybe just check if there's a video and we can just maybe briefly play it. Because it is just so egregious. And you need to ask yourself, guys, why would state-funded media from a different country selectively edit clips to make Trump look like he was attempting to commit an insurrection? What's the purpose of that?
I mean, I'm thinking back to like COVID days where someone within media had contacted me and said, I watched them form a narrative right before my eyes. And then we had spoken about how everyone had the same, this is the script. You got to read from the script. Didn't matter what news service you're from, whether you're Murdoch Media, whether wherever you're from, this is what you read off. This is the narrative. That's what it was. It's like they were scared of him. And like, if you're European, everyone that was in power outside of America should be scared of Trump.
Yeah.
Because you're milking him. And the reason why you're milking, you were milking America prior.
Yep.
USAID was a great example. Like, they're just giving billions and billions and billions for fucking nothing.
But that's where I think the influence was coming from at these times. So
For sure,
USAID would have been funding the BBC, would have been funding
absolutely.
the ABC. Look at the fact that, like, I've said this on the show before, when Trump came into office, there was all of this talk about how he was going to cut off funding to Australian universities who put woke or DEI policies in the unis. And all these universities are coming out, or like these lefties screaming, going, how dare Trump cut the funding like over this stuff, and he's a buffoon, and blah, 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 blah. And then they're not asking the simple question of, why is a foreign country funding our educational institutions? What is the benefit to the foreign country of that? And then you just look at what happened during COVID. Like Monash University, we talk about all the time. They were the ones who were doing the tests on whether or not ivermectin killed COVID in vitro. And it did. And then all of a sudden, they just started covering shit up. Because the Biden administration and USAID would have gone to them and said, hey, we're trying to get these vaccines out, brah. Which, don't forget, the NIH, National Institutes of Health, was a part owner of the patent on these vaccines, and they were making money on every vaccine that was sold all throughout the world.
It's not just that. So USAID was a huge part, but it's not just that. Purely just from trade deficits. The USA consumes 4 times more than than second and third combined.
Yeah.
Like, it's far and away the biggest market. China doesn't even come close to the consumption.
Yeah, they're the most important country in the world.
Yeah,
and they can wield it.
And we whinged about it. We were putting tariffs on their shit.
Yeah.
And we had a free trade, and they didn't tariff ours.
Yeah, that's the thing.
And then as soon as they did, we're like, oh my god, how could you do that? Like, well, we've been doing it to them the whole time.
Yeah, like our media was bitching, and Albo was bitching about them putting a tariff on Australian beef, and then Trump was like, you don't even take our beef. Like, we had banned imports from US beef producers.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it is interesting. And look, as the updates from that BBC story, you know, the CEO of the BBC and the head of reporting have both resigned as well, and stepped down because of it.
Yeah.
Which is interesting to see some actual accountability happening. But I also think that was partly because, if they resign, then that $1 billion lawsuit doesn't happen. I think that's what they're hoping for.
This is the I don't blame the news as much as what you sort of made out. I think it's personal responsibility. I think it's up to us. I've had many a time where a friend has sent me something, and we like to have robust conversations, and he'll send me, I can't believe this happened. You know, I can't believe RFK said this.
Yeah.
Can you find the clip of him saying that? can't find it anywhere.
Yeah.
It's fake. It's just fake. And in the world of AI, like, you don't know what's real. So you're going to need some additional, like, you want to see the whole press conference.
I was going to make a reel out of this, but I'll say it here now and then I'll make something a little bit fancy for social media. But, like, if you're still believing anything that is said on the mainstream media, let's just take a little bit of a walk down memory lane. So, remember that time a virus was created in a lab with US funding and they locked you in your home, decided which businesses could operate and which ones went bankrupt, and force injected you with experimental drugs with no package insert? Well, that time banks gave loans to people they shouldn't have for profit, caused the global financial crisis, and were bailed out by our tax dollars, and only one person went to jail. Or that time they told us that Iraq and Afghanistan had weapons of mass destruction that didn't exist, and at that same time, the US military was guarding the poppy fields for their culture. Meanwhile, by pure coincidence, the US was having an opioid crisis. What about that time they told you the globe was about to start boiling due to climate change, and that the science on that has been settled since 2015, yet every 6 months the same global elites fly to a new part of the world to talk about it for our benefit? What about that time they told you kids can be born in the wrong body and stopping puberty was essential for their mental health? What about that time there were drones flying over parts of the US and the Biden administration said they might be aliens? Like, fucking hell, dude! If you are still believing anything you see on mainstream TV, I just don't know what else to say at this point. It's that whole thing of, like, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, fool me that many fucking times. Absolutely, shame on us.
Yeah, man, it's a doozy. It's a real doozy.
Especially that point about the drones. That's the funniest one for me. They literally hinted that they might be aliens. It was so funny.
Yeah.
But I will say, on the mainstream media, it is good to keep track of what the mainstream media is talking about, because it gives you hints at...
Great signal, yeah.
Yeah, it's a good signal. You know, like, if you can deconstruct their narratives and go, okay, why are they talking about this particular subject? What are they trying to manufacture our consent for? Are they trying to make me buy into the stock market at a shit time so I'll be holding the bag for the institutions? Like, it actually gives you clues that you can use to plan your life accordingly.
Well, think about COVID. We've had this conversation before. If you did the exact opposite of what the news told you at the time, you would have got the best possible result.
Yep, absolutely.
I know there's some more articles. I gotta go.
We can save them for next week. We've gone on long enough. But look, guys, thank you very much for joining us. Again, start planning accordingly and start now, this weekend, or like today. Start planning how you're going to financially protect yourself for the next 6 to 12 months, because things are probably going to get a bit dicey. And when the media comes out and goes, no one could have seen this coming, you guys will have seen it coming. You would have been prepared. And if you are in a good financial position during times of economic turmoil, there is so much opportunity available to you to cash in at the right times.
There's no reason why you can't get like yourself a 30% uptick in 12 months.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, whatever you're going to invest, you're going to make a 30. There might be a 10% drawdown, which you're going to buy into. Then it's going to recover, and once it comes good, you 12, 18 months, you're probably up 30%.
And it always recovers, because the rich people only make money by the stock market recovering. So they will always finagle anything they can to make it recover.
When the shit hits the fan, lock in, dude. Don't, like, you be excited, be euphoric about when those things happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for joining us, guys. We'll see you next week.